What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan Tansom, and I am the founder of Independence by Design, the owner's framework for time, cash flow, and wealth. And I created this over the last 10 years since selling our family business that was doing $21 million in revenue. We lost almost $1 million, turned it around and sold it. I have a lot of regrets. I had 3 different companies and about 400 and some podcasts since I sold. And this is the result. So if you want to know more about me, you can go check out more about me on the About page or my podcast. But I want to, in this video, give you an overview of the general structure of the framework. So by the end of this, you have a better understanding of how to consume the podcast, how to consume various parts of my content, because my goal is to help you make progress for the independence that I think you deserve. And so I think it's almost indisputable that every single person I've ever met that owns a company started because they wanted to do whatever they want. They wanted independence. They didn't have an addiction for pain. They had an addiction to become independent, and they chose business as the vehicle to do that, because owning a business provides us amazing opportunities for personal growth, developing meaningful relationships, and making a lasting impact. And I think that these 3 things they're really like first principles of what people need to be happy, in my opinion. And I personally relate with these. And the problem is we get stuck in the operations and we get stuck in the operations in the spirit of trying to get to that goal, and our time and cash flow become pulled, and we end up into this ball of chaos of just doing things every single day in the hopes that we'll eventually get there. More revenue, more growth, more customers, whatever it might be. Yet we don't see a through path of like, when are we actually going to get that independence that we know we want, but we don't know how to get there. And the 3 things that I think are holding us back, there are 3 huge components behind this, is gut-based decisions. We're making decisions every day about how we should be spending our time, our employees' time, and our investment of our company dollars, and we're just hoping it works out. And we could have a very clear path and an income statement that shows us how we're going to get the revenue growth. But does that translate to gross profit that also goes through to normalized EBITDA, that goes through the cash flow statement to equal shareholder distributions that are more sustainable with a more increased value? If we can't see that, we're guessing. And the second thing that holds us back is we have unpredictable cash flow. So we are stuck doing all these things, just guessing and making bets. And then we don't have any predictable cash flow, which forces us to guess. And so we have unpredictable cash flow that makes it difficult to understand how to reinvest back into the company, or whether we should take distributions as an owner, whether we can actually make the investments, and what that cash result will be after we make those investments. So not having a clear path on the cash flow becomes extremely anxiety ridden, because we're guessing and we can't see when that is going to result in cash. The third thing that keeps us stuck in the operations is our time, because we are stuck in the operations from the job that we have. So we're playing a significant role in the business, whether that's the integrator, visionary, don't care about those, like whatever role you call it, or you're in sales, and like if you step back, sales stop, or operations or engineering. And because of that role, we're stuck in the operations, which then forces us to make gut-based decisions, and then we can't see the predictable cash flow. You can see how this becomes what I call the owner-operator trap. We're just trying to strive towards that goal of independence, but we're stuck in this ball of chaos, in this vortex. And the challenge that becomes very obvious the moment when you become burnt out, or you get an out-of-the-blue offer, or you want to buy a company, or you want to do some sort of M&A, your wealth is completely locked up into this asset. So now your job, your cash flow, and your wealth, so your time, cash flow, and wealth are all tied up into this business. You have no idea what the ripple effect will be if you make this decision. All the while, you know exactly what that feeling should feel like of independence, of time, cash flow, and wealth. And so I want to help you get out of this, and I want to help you with a through path. I call it the through line. Like, can we see the path to independence? And can we design that path so that way we know how every single day our hard work of our time and our cash flow are generating more wealth and more cash flow, more freedom of time. And so there are 3 stages to independence by design. First, we have to plan for the future. So we need to go from making gut-based decisions to very clear, intentional decision making where we're planning for the future, because we can see how what we're doing is going to get us to our clearly articulated goals, and we know where we are today. Then the second thing we need to do is make sure that all the time and money we're spending is going to build a valuable business. And we need to make sure that we have predictable financials and we're maximizing the financials. We need to make sure that we are maximizing growth, and that we have predictable revenue, and that we can scale our operations that lead to more value through more cash flow and more equity. And then the third phase is we need to elevate ourselves from operator to owner. We need to make sure that we have a strengthened leadership team and building out that bench. We need to make sure that we are incentivizing growth through short-term bonus plans and long-term bonus plans. And then we have to have a plan to replace ourselves. Unless you just want to be in this grind forever. But if you're listening to this, my guess is that's not the case. Doesn't mean you have to sell. This is about extracting yourself from the operations to have true independence, which my definition is the freedom to do what you want, when you want, whether you own the business or not. Because if you're going to make a decision to hire someone or sell some of your company or all your company or whatever it might be, and you don't know what the ripple effect of that is going to be, as I'm sure you could probably think about the one decision right now that's sitting in front of you, if you can't see what the impact will be on your long-term time, your cash flow, or your wealth, it's very, very stressful and very annoying, and I hate that feeling of being trapped. It's the same reason my father and I sold our business, because of that feeling. It's like I've met so many entrepreneurs where they will burn and scorch earth to get the hell out of that stuck feeling. We want to reverse that, to say let's make intentional decisions so we do the hard work to generate more and more independence every single day. And the way we do that is by looking at the independence flywheel, which is making sure that your time that you're spending working is generating cash flow for your job, but then you're investing that cash flow into wealth, which is generally the business as a vehicle of wealth creation. Could be outside the business, but then that wealth, the purpose of wealth is to generate income that's not tied to your time. And if we don't know how our decision is going to increase this situation, we're guessing. And that's where that stress comes from. That's where the conflict comes from. And so understanding what your goals are, and then understanding how what you're doing and the hard work that you're spending is going to pay off, I think becomes the name of the game, and it becomes really fun, to be honest. That's why I love what I do every day, is because I can see how my time, cash flow, and wealth are getting more and more. It's this flywheel up. So I got my dog over here. He knows it's 5 o'clock and it's it's dinner time. So it's doing the hard work to make it worth it. And it's about designing that independence. And the goal of my framework that I've worked over a decade on is that you don't have to wonder what to do and what you should be working on, because I have spent 10 years looking at the gold standard of how do we actually plan for the future? How do we actually build a valuable business? How do we elevate from operator to owner? So before I wrap up this video, I'm going to give you a little bit of a double click inside of each of these, because this is how all of my content and the coaching and my podcast is structured, and will continue to be built out around these components. So to plan for the future, we need to clarify our ownership goals of time, cash flow, and wealth. We need to expand our knowledge and understand how business valuations work, how mergers and acquisitions and deal structures work, and then what it means to create a family office for people that have wealth in illiquid assets. And then we need to drive strategy of capital allocation from the boardrooms. We need to have monthly, quarterly, and annual boardroom meetings as the owner on the business, not just doing operations. And you become a capital allocator, because the questions are, should I take the money home and take it in the form of distributions, or should I reinvest in the business? And if you're going to reinvest in the business, make sure it's growing the valuation. Otherwise, you're just pissing money away. And so that is capital allocation and driving strategy, planning for the future based on the goals that you have, because you've expanded your knowledge and you've clarified your goals. The second phase of building is building a valuable business. We need to optimize the financials. We need to take your financials and take the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement, mathematically tie them together, and then tie them to the future valuation that you want. It's like seeing the company in three-dimensional, because you can see when they're mathematically tied together, you can see in the cash flow statement, working capital, taxes, reinvestment, owner's distributions after debt. Like, you can actually see when you can take your income after the whole company does the things that you have planned out on doing them. So you need to make sure you have a good annual budget that's thought through, that's a 3-year forecast, and you can peg it all to the valuation. And then you can maximize your growth so you can have predictable income between point A and point B. So you have predictable, sustainable revenue growth. And then you can scale your operations, making sure you have the right margins. And so these three components have to be done, and it's the private equity playbook for the most part, because you have your financials built out, you're creating sustainable revenue, and you're scaling the gross profit to kick out more cash. And that allows us to elevate from operator owner, where you're strengthening your leadership team and your bench. So you have A players that you don't have to tell them what to do. They actually can think. And then that leadership team has to be tied to growing the value of the company. So that short-term and long-term bonus plans is what I call incentivized growth, where the leadership team is tied to revenue, gross profit, normalized EBITDA, and the CEO is tied to working capital, owner's distributions. And then there's a long-term equity plan, phantom stock generally, that's tied to your goals. If you want it, if you can already get there without doing that, don't do it. But I would suggest the right people that are going to allow you to extract from the operations are going to desire something like this. And the point is, it's worth it, because then you're freeing yourself up. They're creating the growth for you. And that's the private equity playbook. And then replace yourself. If you love working in the business, that's fine. Just have a plan. So the day something happens to your health, or something happens to, God forbid, someone else that you love, that you need to spend the time taking care of them, but you can't because you're doing sales or something else, or operations, or working with clients, is it's just ridiculous, I think, is because people go, I love the business. Well, that doesn't mean you're free. Like, I would like to have me doing something a choice, not a mandate. And so when we look at all this, that's truly why I've spent a decade doing this, is because I want you to have the freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want, regardless of whether you own the business or whether you're working or not. And I'm going to go back to this for a second, because the reason you can see on the X and Y axis, the time and cash flow are decoupling, and then the wealth, if you're building the value of the business that kicks out cash from distributions, you're freeing up your time, and you're freeing up your time from the cash flow, and then you're still building value, and that's escape velocity. You've truly hit it, and then you're managing the business and the infrastructure with the owner's playbook that I've helped you lay out, so that way you know what to work on. This is why I think it's all worth it, is it's personal growth. I love personal growth. Like, I love learning. I love doing hard things. I love seeing whether it's working or not. And that's what business provides us the ability to do, which makes us happy. And then we have meaningful relationships. I mean, are you working with the people you want to, and providing for the people that you want to? And then you're making a lasting impact, whatever form of legacy that means to you. I think that the goal of life is to have the highest amount of impact over the biggest amount of time span to the biggest amount of people, while you're sacrificing and personally growing on the way. That right there is a recipe to happiness and to lasting joy, I think. And understanding how your business fits into that becomes very liberating, because then all your choices become very clear about how all the dots connect. And that leads us to then, the independence flywheel. And the first step is you need to clarify your goals. And so go check out the Clarify Your Goals video. It's about 40 some minutes. And I walk through in more detail time, cash flow, and wealth. There's multiple components of them. And I help you through some worksheets identify where are you right now. I help you identify where you want to be, and then what you need to do to figure out where you are right now. Because a lot of times, like, I like to figure out, where do I want to go? And then I figure out, where am I right now? And then I go, okay, how much effort is that going to take? What's going to be the sacrifice of time, cash flow, and wealth that it's going to take to get there? And then I can modify the timeline, and I have a lot more liberty into how I want that journey to unfold, and I'm thinking about it so that way every day I'm waking up, I'm not just hoping it all works out. It's not my jam. I've tried to figure out how I can make sure that everything I'm doing every day matters, and so I think you should quit being stuck, and owner independence is the goal. So that's the playbook for time, cash flow, and wealth. Go check out the clarified goals as the next step, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. See you, everybody.